Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to today's car video. So this is something I've been wanting to do for a good while now, and it is reviewing the Z1 two-piece slotted rotors that I bought back in August or so. So it's been a few months now since I've had the rotors on my Q50. Keep in mind, these are only for the Akebono Sport package, so you do need the bigger calipers essentially to roll with these rotors. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about them a little more. I'll kind of get a chance to, of course, drive the car itself and kind of talk about the stopping power, at least, for these rotors, and just general quirks and nuances that I've kind of come across with owning these rotors and driving on them for a few months now. I probably have a couple thousand miles already for sure on these rotors, so I've definitely had a chance to break them in a little bit, and I mean, they're awesome. So that's all I can really say. I'll get more into it now, but I hope you guys do enjoy this video. Totally not related to the topic of this video, but I do want to cold start this thing because it has been sitting in the garage all night in very cold weather. So honestly, I thought I would just include that in the video. And this is with everything closed, windows closed, and so on. So I just pulled this thing out of the garage. Now, again, I literally just took it out. Rotors are pretty cold right now. The one thing that I kind of want to nitpick right off the bat with these rotors, especially in cold weather, is they're going to make a hell of a lot of noise. If you're living in an area like Illinois, where I'm at, it gets pretty cold here in the winter time. And what I've noticed is even just pulling out of the garage, just the constant squeak, like the squeak from hell. And again, that's just based on the composition of the rotors and the material used. Again, they are sport rotors, so the whole point of them is to be as cooled down as possible, again, for track essentially. So if it's just sitting there in the cold, it takes a little bit before they heat up and stop making noise. And another thing too to keep in mind, I did initially change the rotors and the pads together, so they are new. The pads that I used are actually OEM Nissan Akebono brake pads, front and rear. So I chose not to go any other aftermarket brand just because I heard a lot of reviews that it squeaks even worse. So I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but even with the OEM pads, there is quite the squeak. So I'll drive around with my windows down just a little bit to see if I do hear any of the squeaking sounds. Granted, it is about 40 or so degrees, so it may not be as bad, but usually 30 and below is when it starts really freezing up, and the rotors really start getting a little too cold to the point where the metal on metal contact or metal on brake pad make that contact. It just makes a lot of noise. But anyway, I'll start driving right now and we'll see what happens. I'll do this just for a little, so don't mind the shaking. That's just really the engine going, and that's why the vibration's there. So you can kind of hear it already. So that gives you kind of an idea, at least a little bit. Ooh, that again, that goes away after a little bit, but I mean, it's still pretty bad. Sounds like a train stopping. But anyway, that's just one of the things that I don't really like with these rotors, but I also have to understand the reason why that happens. So I'm at a light right now. You kind of got a chance again to hear those rotors. Sorry, can't talk. really squeak. So you really got a chance to hear it. I literally just drove down the street, so they're warmed up a little bit. I'm just doing some regular driving right now. Now, again, as I mentioned before, as you drive and you kind of apply the brakes a few times, the squeak does go away. So I don't want that to be something that discourages you from purchasing these rotors, because again, you just have to understand they're a sport rotor. Again, the technology used to build them uses some kind of materials and chemicals, again, to better react with the heat on track day. So right now I'm applying the brakes. It's a pretty firm feel. It stops pretty good, and again, you can see that there is no squeak at all because now they're warmed up a little bit more. Alrighty, so now we're pretty much in view of both the speedo gauge over here, and I just threw on the performance meter just so you guys can kind of get an idea of the actual stopping power. I'll see what I can do in terms of just doing a pull and then just hard braking, but I'll do just a couple hard brakes just by, you know, going like 20 miles an hour or so, just so you all kind of get an idea of how hard the calipers bite these rotors. Again, it's quite impressive. So I'll just kind of start off here. I'll go just a little bit, and I may even hold my tripod a little just because it'll probably jerk. Holy crap. Wow, that was and that was 20. That was 20. I'm actually now thinking about not going faster than that in hard braking, because holy crap. That was scary. But just right now, just even giving some pretty firm pressing on that brake is wow. That's pretty wild. But yeah, these things are incredibly just wow. It makes a big difference compared to OEM rotors, just because again there's less rotational mass to begin with. You're shaving off, I think from what Z1 their video that they posted on these, it's around 40 total pounds of weight that's shaving off the car essentially. So even that, again, it plays a big role in this when it comes to braking, just because again there's less weight and it's just overall very well engineered. But that at least kind of gives you an idea just on the G-forces. I mean, it literally pulled me forward so hard. It's literally, the thing took a nosedive. Pretty epic. So here's an up-close view of the actual rotors. Again, they're not the cleanest right now because, again, I've had these on for several thousand miles at this point. But here's kind of a better view of, again, here's the vented area there. And the, of course, it's slotted, as you can tell, not drilled or slotted at the same time. But I'll show you the rear ones as well. So here's the rear ones. Again, as you can kind of see, it's not the cleanest, but they're overall very, very visually appealing rotors. Extremely great build quality, as you can tell. It's kind of hard just because of these sport wheels to really view the rotors, but again, I am on my winter wheel setup, so it is a little more enclosed as I put my Ferratas away for the winter. But again, very, very nice rotors. All right, so we got a chance to at least see the car in action with really laying on the brakes with these rotors. And again, I don't know if I mentioned, but I do have all four of the rotors changed out to the Z1 two-piece slotted rotors. So again, the braking there is just extreme. It's, first of all, the pads are only 2 months old, so they're gonna be new and still beefy to grip that rotor, and the rotor itself is new as well, so it's not, you know, nothing old there. But man, after just for most of these stopping tests that I did, I was probably right around 25 miles an hour at the highest speed when I laid on the brakes. And as you kind of saw, I mean, it's instant. It goes to zero in like a second. Just for the safety of myself and the car, I'm not going to go any faster, because let me tell you, it is quite violent when you are slamming on the brakes going even 25. You feel it pretty good, and you know, I'll kind of leave it as that, and I'm hoping you just take my word for it. The stopping power on these are just extremely great, and again, it's super noticeable. I can't even imagine or even recall my OEM front and rear rotors performing that insanely with just the stopping power. It's incredible. So just some things to think about with these rotors. First of all, where I purchased them was on Z1's website. Now, the thing is, for these rotors, especially when you're changing all four of them out, it's going to be quite expensive. I'm not even going to lie to you. It's quite the investment that I've made, and it's definitely my year-end investment for this car, and I'm done spending money for the rest of this year. But again, you're going to be paying closer to probably $1,300 or $1,400 if you buy them together. If I recall correctly, the front set is about $500, and then the rears are about, I think it's oddly priced, but it's at $648 if I recall correctly. And that price was actually marked down because those rear rotors are typically more expensive than the fronts. So you can kind of do it one of both ways. If you're trying to affordably purchase these, do front set first and then buy the rear later. Probably something I could recommend, so it doesn't hit your bank account as hard as buying all at once. But again, if you're kind of OCD like myself, you can't just buy half the package. You got to go all the way with it. So that's kind of what I did. I went all the way and just bought it all at once. Then I got, again, the Oem Pads. Again, Nissan Infiniti Oem Pads for Akebono calipers. Those were about $65 or so for both front and rears. Depending if you go aftermarket, the prices, of course, will be higher. But again, just based off of my reviews that I read about, the aftermarket pads seem to be a little bit noisier than the Nissan OEM. But as you saw, that's also not the case, because whether you go OEM or aftermarket, they still squeak like hell after the car's been sitting in the cold weather for a while. But again, don't let that discourage you. Once you start driving for about 5 to 10 minutes, that's going to get warmed up and it goes away. And again, they act like normal rotors, and they don't make any sound. It's only, of course, when the weather starts dropping, in temperature, that's when you're going to hear it the most. But in the summertime and when it's warmer weather, you're okay. Again, I don't really have a whole lot of negatives for this review of these rotors. Honestly, the negatives, of course, is the price, because it's so much money for freaking rotors. But you have to understand the engineering, the quality, the design, all of this goes into this final price. And I can see why. When you purchase these and look at them up close, you're just intrigued and appalled by the quality. It's incredible. It's very well made. You can tell that Z1, whatever manufacturer that they work with to make these, they just did a superb job. The quality control is quite excellent. And again, that's why that price tag is what it is. So you can kind of check out my unboxing videos of these rotors to get a better idea of what that video is about, and to get a chance to see the quality. So those are going to be part of this video. I did link them together, so you will get a chance to see how the unboxing went. But overall, it's just the downside that I hate is the squeak. The squeak sucks. feels like I'm broke and I can't afford my pads and rotors change, and I'm riding metal on metal. That's that kind of thought that I get, and I'm sure others around me, especially. The worst part, and I've had it happen, where you're in a crowded area and your car's cold, just fresh out of the parking lot. You maybe went to the grocery store for 45 minutes. You come out, you get in, start going through all those stop signs, and man, it squeaks so bad. I try to even lightly apply it just so it doesn't squeak as bad, but sometimes if you apply it pretty firmly, you don't hear the squeak just because it's gripping right away, and there's a lot of friction right off the bat to heat up the rotors. But again, that's kind of the negative there, and the price. Everything else is amazing. The stopping power, as you clearly saw, is freaking insane. And just FYI, I am on stock run flats for these sport wheels. So of course, in one of the videos, I even slid. Pretty much the wheels were locked in and my car was just sliding. That's just the quality of course, of the tires. Depending on what kind of tires you have and how grippy they are, you may get an even better result than what I did. So just keep that in mind, that this was all performed on OEM wheels and tires. And again, the rotational mass has diminished severely. You can feel the car overall is a little peppier because you essentially shaved 40 pounds of weight off of this car, rotational weight off of this car. And especially if you pair that together with some kind of aftermarket wheels that are of course lightweight, again, it's incredible how much weight overall you're taking off, because if you take into account the run flats with the wheels are super heavy, then of course you have the OEM sport rotors that are super heavy as well. When I still have them actually, one front rotor probably weighs about 30 pounds. So you're thinking 60 pounds in the front in total, and maybe about 45 to 50 pounds in the back for the rear. Adding that up, it's 120 or so pounds almost of just weight, dead weight essentially. So if you now look at it like this, where we shave off 40 pounds, we're only basically about 80 pounds in total of rotor weight currently sitting with Z1. So it's incredible. And 80 pounds, or I'm sorry, not 80, well, shaving off 40 pounds equals 80 pounds of total weight is quite the weight difference, and the car can feel it. So you'll notice that right off the bat, you know, especially if you're, let's say you're cruising in fourth gear and you give it a little gas, it picks up speed a lot quicker than I've noticed before. So that's something you'll notice with these rotors. But anyway, guys, to summarize that last section of this video, again, super awesome investment, totally worth it. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope it maybe shed some light on your interest in case you were looking to buy these rotors, as a lot of you, I'm sure, were looking into them at one point, just like I was, and was really looking for more facts and what they're all about. But anyway, I hope this answered your questions a little more. Feel free to ask me more questions in the comments. I'm happy to always answer those. And again, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys did enjoy the video. Thanks again.